بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى صحبه وآله أجمعين. Today's talk was on the third talk on the Crusades, and particularly the role of Salahuddin Al-Ayubi. I prepared a very detailed PowerPoint. Let's go through them and see the achievement of that great Muslim personality. All right, I think everybody can see it. Salahuddin Al-Ayubi. He is one of all-time great leaders. After the Khulafa al-Rashidin, the four Khulafa al-Rashidin, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, then Muslims considered Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who ruled from the year 99 to 101 Hijri, the Umayyad, as the fifth of the Khulafa al-Rashidin. And then last week, remember when we did Nuruddin, people considered him as this, that's the fifth. People considered him, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was the fifth, Nuruddin the sixth. In my opinion, Salahuddin was the seventh. He was just like them in piety, in leadership, in jihad, in knowledge, not exactly, but not too far away from them, right? Just some background about Salahuddin. So far, we've been covering the Zinki, who were Turks, but different than the Seljuk. Okay, quickly, the Seljuks, well, all the area between Turkey now and China is inhabited by different tribes of Turks. The Seljuks are the one who ruled this, Al-Arsalan and his son Malik Shah. They ruled the area from China till the borders of Turkey now. Al-Arsalan extended it to the middle of Turkey. And Al-Arsalan is known for the battle he did against the Byzantine, the Eastern Roman Empire, and he captured the king, and he only had 20,000 men against the Romans, against the Romans, so let me admit somebody, against the Romans, 200,000. After Al-Arsalan, right, his son Malik Shah ruled, and he had a minister called Nizam al-Mulk. Nizam al-Mulk is the one who introduced the Muslim schools, full-time schools throughout the Muslim world. And then Nizam, the Malik Shah, noticed a very able officer who was Ak Sungur, who was the father of Imaduddin, and Imaduddin was the father of Nuruddin. Now, all these are different types of what? Of Turkish origin. And then when Imaduddin once was in trouble, if you remember, and he had to flee to Tikrit. Tikrit was governed by a Kurdish this time, who was Najmuddin Ayyub. He gave him refuge. Later on, he had to run for his life when Imaduddin was ruling most of Syria. He welcomed him and he retained the favor and made him a governor of Baalbek. This man, Najmuddin, he was Kurdish, and he was in Tikrit. That's the city of Saddam Hussein. So he had a little baby at the time when they're moving. Actually, he was born on the same night that they were moving from Tikrit. That baby's name was Salahuddin. Salahuddin grew up at the time of Nuruddin. Nuruddin noticed him, took good care of him. He could see that this is a very bright, brave boy. He took good care of him, and later on, he appointed him and his uncle, not his father. His father was a bit old. His uncle called Asad Shirko. He appointed them as generals in his army. Nuruddin had a plan. He knew he had to liberate Jerusalem and Palestine and the whole the whole Syrian coast from the Crusades. So did Imad ad-Din before him. But to do that, the Muslim world was fragmented. Almost every town and city was a state, and they used to fight with each other. And not only that, they used to seek the help of the Crusades as well to help them against their Muslim brothers. Imad ad-Din, remember, let's quickly here. Imad ad-Din managed to unite north of Syria and west of Iraq and some part of Turkey. Nur ad-Din, Imad ad-Din made it much bigger state, but he wanted to unite Egypt as well. Egypt was very important for them. Egypt was very important. This one here, the map here, the one on the left here, this is what the Crusades took from the Muslim world, or the Syrian coast and Lebanon and Palestine. And this is Imad ad-Din, Imad ad-Din state, the Zinki. But then after that, his son Nur ad-Din took all of this area, much bigger area, and he was encroaching on the Crusades who are on the coastline. But he knew to confront them, he had to secure Egypt. Here, Egypt was a very critical country at that time. Egypt was ruled by the Fatimites. Those Fatimite Shias have let the Muslims down many times. First, when the Crusades came, they were in rule of most of Syria and Palestine and Jerusalem, definitely, and even Antakya. They made a deal with the Crusades. They realized that the Crusades were too strong for them. They said, you can take whatever you can take from Syria. And when we say Syria, we mean Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon. That all was one country. But keep Jerusalem for us. The Crusades agreed, and the Muslims in Antakya, who were besieged for 7 months, and they couldn't be held by all these other people here, all these countries here, although they are states, but they're country, or they are cities, but they were states in their own right. Because of the threat of the Fatimids, nobody could help the people in Antioch. So Antioch fell. They took all of this. They took Jerusalem, and they did not fulfill their promise to keep the Jerusalem with the Fatimids. But they did not harm the Fatimid garrison who was protecting Jerusalem. They killed 70,000 people in Jerusalem. That was 1099, and they gave free passage to the Fatimids who went there. Now Nur ad-Din realized he cannot risk fighting the Crusades when the Fatimids could attack him, or the Crusades could come from the Fatimid side and attack him as well. He had to secure Egypt. But how to do that? I mean, to start a war with them would weaken him in Syria and in this area here. How to do that? Then opportunity presented itself for him. The Fatimids, they had a Khalifa. And we explained last time, what's the difference between a Khalifa and a Sultan? Let me say them again. There were 3 ranking positions in the Muslim world at the time for leaders. Khalifa was a title given to the one who had the overall rule of the whole Muslim world, like the Khalifa Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, right? And then the Umayyad, and then the Abbasids. And when the Abbasids became weak, a lot of Muslim states became independent, but they still acknowledged the overall leadership of the Khalifa in Baghdad. So he was a figurehead, but they still considered themselves part of the Khilafah. So the Khalifa used to appoint, or people used to appoint those strong people in their own localities to be Sultan, right? So Sultan is the real leader of a country, but he gives the allegiance, just like a Commonwealth today. Exactly. The Commonwealth, where the Queen is the figurehead of all the Commonwealth countries, so was the Khalifa. But every country has its own leader. That leader, the Sultan, used to appoint kings or governors on cities. Okay, so Nur ad-Din was a Sultan. So when they used to make the Jum'ah prayer, it's sunnah to make a dua for the leader. When they make Jum'ah prayers, the dua for the leader, in the Jum'ah prayer, in the areas where they given allegiance to the Khalifa, although it was only figurehead, but they used to make dua for the Khalifa in Baghdad, whoever it was, although he was ruling nothing, but they used to make as well as to the Sultan. But the Fatimites, no, they wouldn't recognize the Sunni Khilafah. They were making dua for the Khalifa, the Fatimite Khalifa himself only. But the Fatimite, again, they became weak after ruling for 250 years, North Africa. They became weak, and who was the strong people there were their ministers, not the king. The ministers used to manipulate the leaders somehow because they had the control the army. The Khalifa there, I think it's called Al-Adid, the Khalifa there had two ministers who were competing with each other, one called Durgham and one called Shawar. Shawar was closer to the Khalifa than Durgham. For in order for Durgham to take over, he knew he had to go into bloody war, and they used to go into bloody wars between themselves, those wazirs. They had big followers. So Durgham sought the help of the Christians, of the Roman Christians, who sent force to help him. Shawar suggested to the Khalifa that if those Romans arrive there, they will overtake you and they will remove you altogether. So suggest, let's get help from Nuruddin. Nuruddin agreed. He sent a big force led by Asad Sherku, that is the uncle of Salahuddin, and Salahuddin. They went there, and straight as soon as they went there, they went this way, they went, okay, they crossed up to here and went to the seafront and beat the Crusades. They were all Crusades. They beat them badly, and they killed Durgham. The Khalifa was very pleased with them. He asked Sherku and Salahuddin to stay. Salahuddin was a young man at the time in his late 20s. Sherku was in his 50s. For some reason, they had to go back, and then the Khalifa called for them again. When they came again, this Sherku now became jealous. He knew that his position now is not very secure. Secretly, he made agreement with the Crusades to come and help him, exactly like his friend Durgham. They were all Fatimites. They were all Ismailis. So he called this time he called the Crusades to help him against Sherku. Someone from his camp gave the news to what's his name, to Sherku. Sherku went again to the sea frontier, confronted the Crusades, and beat them. Actually, they ran away because they were beaten before by him. They ran away, and when he came back, he killed that man, that Shawar. The Khalifa was so pleased, he appointed Sherku, the Kurdish Sherku, was the brother of Asad Sherku, the brother of Najmuddin Ayub, the father of Salahuddin. He appointed him as his first minister, the only minister. They only had one minister at the time. He appointed him as a minister. 2 months after he died, that Sherku. Then the Sultan appointed Salahuddin. Now we have, for the first time, we have in 250 years in Egypt, a strong Sunni minister. After rule of 250 years, he realized Sunni Islam was too weak in Egypt. But he had the power now, and he had big contingency of army with him from Syria. So what he did, the first thing he did, he established Sunni schools on two mazhab. The Shafi'i, that was the mazhab of the Egyptians before, because Imam Shafi'i died in Egypt, and the Maliki, because the Maliki was the predominant mazhab in North Africa. So he started establishing these schools and spreading them. At the same time, started as well Salahuddin planting his men in different positions. And the Sunnis now start getting stronger. A lot of people from Salahuddin's circle suggested to him, let's turn it into Sunni state. Let's make the dua. He wasn't ruled really, but practically that leader was doing nothing. But out of favor, etc., he didn't want to he let it very late till just before the Khalifa died, 2 or 3 days, or 2 days before he died, he made the dua for the Khalifa in Baghdad. And then Baghdad and okay, and then Egypt became, for the first time, became on 260 years became a Sunni state again. And then as soon as he became Sunni, he got rid of all the signs of Shi'ism, because the signs of Shi'ism are very hurtful. Like they used to have different azan than the Sunni azan. You have to make a curse of Abu Bakr, Umar, Aisha. That's the 3 of them you have to. I mean, at the time they used to go and make an announcement in the streets. Whoever cares today will get £1. Whoever cares out loudly in the street, he'll get £1. This is how silly they were. Anyway, this is what their religion is based on, cursing the Sahaba. So Salahuddin stayed from that time, when is it? From 1171 for the next 10 years, no, 3 or 4 years, no, 3 years, 3 years, yeah, spreading Sunni Islam in north of Africa, right? And during those years, the Fatimites, because there were thousands of them and they've been there for a long time, tried few times to assassinate him. They failed. They gathered at one time 50,000 men from Sudan, from Egypt, from North Africa, and they attacked him again. They failed. It was too good for them. After 2 or 3 attempts, they stopped. He destroyed all his enemies. Although he was kind, gentle, pious, but at war, he was a lion. That's it. When the war is war and peace is peace to him, right? So now Egypt is secured. He turned back to a big event that happened in Syria. Nur ad-Din, his friend, his master, the one who served him and his father and his uncle served him for the past 30 years, died in the year 1174. That means 3 years after Salahuddin became a minister. He died. Now Salahuddin, like Nur ad-Din before him, like Imad ad-Din before him, all those people, heart was on Jerusalem. How can we get back Jerusalem from the Christians, from the Crusades? And the power of the Christian wasn't only in their equipment and numbers. Muslim could outnumber them, but because they controlled the coast, and the coast is very near to Cyprus, very near to Turkey, which was ruled by the Byzantine, very near to Italy. Within 2 or 3 days, they can get supply. The supplies was coming to them all the time from the sea, right? And to besiege them, it would take months and months, probably years. What the Crusaders did when they arrived there in Syria, what they did, they straight away start building castles and fortifications. They knew they were in a hostile land, exactly like what Israel is doing now. They knew that they were in foreign land and those Muslims are not going to give up, right? So they knew this. And fortifications for non-stop for the past 60, 70 years, fortifications, right? So they arrived in the year 1099. Now, this is 174. That means 175 years they've been there before that. So Salahuddin knew he has to be very careful and he should not lose a war, major war with them. And he knew that there will be a major confrontation with them. So he started to prepare for this major confrontation. Salahuddin had many, not many to be honest, his family wasn't very big. It was his father, his uncle, and their children. He had about 6, 7, or under 10 young men from the Ayubi's family, either his cousins or his brothers. They happened to be very good men, intelligent, good fighters, reliable. Wherever he sent them, Salahuddin, they executed the tasks successfully with hardly any mistakes, about 6 or 7 of them. He starts sending them now throughout the area to expand his area. He expanded so much in the next few years. This is the Ayubi state. How he took over from Nur ad-Din first. Let's think about it. Nur ad-Din had a big state, didn't you remember? Nur ad-Din died, and he was loyal to Nur ad-Din. But Nur ad-Din, unfortunately, he made a mistake that Muslim leaders kept on doing. He appointed his 10 years old son as his Khalifa, as his successor. I mean, you have a big aim. You want to liberate Palestine, etc. Why you appointed this boy? Of course, he knew he wasn't going to be a ruler straight away, but a guardian will be there for the next 10, 15 years till he grows up, and then he will rule. But you don't know who the guardian could be. Guess who was the guardian? Shia. Shia came and supported this young boy, and they said, we'll support you on condition. Probably his mother was speaking on his behalf. He's 10 years old. On condition, we bring back the azan, our azan, the Shia azan. The young boy agreed. He didn't know. He was helpless. So all the work of Nur ad-Din and his father Imad ad-Din was about to be lost. Salahuddin would not allow that. He went straight to Syria. As soon as Nur ad-Din died, he went to Syria with a big force, went to Damascus. The people of Damascus, the military, etc., were very happy to see him. They're still Sunni. They were not under Shia influence. They gave him Damascus without any fight. Right? He treated the Zenkis, Nur ad-Din's family, very well. He did not fight them, no revenge, nothing, because he had no problem with them. He took over all of the Zenki states. This is one here, if you see it, the red one here, that was all Nur ad-Din's state here, up to here only. And then he starts sending his brothers, his sons, his nephews to expand. They went over to the middle of Libya, to Sudan, to Mecca, Medina, even Yemen. And he appointed them as kings. As I said, Sultan is higher than king. Wherever they went, and they did a good job, really. So that was his state now. Now, while he was growing his state, he was, again, his eyes on Jerusalem. He knew he needs all this, so as the bigger the state, the more chances of winning, because you've got a human tank behind you. You've got resources. That's why countries keep expanding. That's why Hitler want to expand. They are small countries, not secure, right? So, and actually, people, wherever he went, they loved him. He had hardly any war on these areas. Most time, people just accepted him, or his sons, or his, not his sons, his son actually, yeah, but they were a bit young at the time, because he was only in his 30s. No, his sons grew up after. He was born 539, and this is 570. So he was 35 years old. So his brothers and his cousins. Now he started preparing himself for a major war with the Crusade. But while he was there preparing for major war, he didn't leave them at peace. He left their major citadels, castles, and he started encroaching on the small ones, keep always attacking and overrunning their far away positions, always provoking them, and winning. He lost a few wars, really. I'll give you that. He lost a few against them. It wasn't all easy going. I mean, one time he found himself alone with his son, and they had to run for his life. That's how serious, because he was always in the front line. He never was from the back. Even his sons, young sons, 17 years old, were with him in the front, right? So while he's preparing, this is an interesting story. One of his wars with the Crusades, he, like Nur ad-Din before and Imad ad-Din, they introduced the scholars, the judges, and the hafiz to the army. A judge at that time is different than a judge today. A Muslim judge that is appointed from the time of Umar radiallahu anh, he's the first one to appoint judge, till the time of Salahuddin and beyond. when a Muslim Khalifa or king appoints a judge, that judge got to be exceptional. He got to be very witty, very knowledgeable, hafiz of the Quran, versed with the hadith. He's got to be scholar like Abu Hanifa almost. They won't appoint any judge easily, right? And it was rare to find a judge as well in the Muslim world. That's how hard it was to do it. Anyway, so while at one of his battles, this Salahuddin, one day a scholar, I don't know his name, visited him. So him and the scholar start walking in the camp, touring the camp the night before a battle with the Crusades. They were touring the camp, big camp, thousands of soldiers. And when they were walking, it was at night, most tents people were asleep in them. Some tents had light. And the light in the past means somebody's up. They didn't have switch light on, they have to light fire. When you get near to that tent, you can hear somebody reading the Quran or praying loudly. With tahajjud, they prayed loudly, people. So that scholar was saying to Salahuddin, when he saw a lit tent, from here comes victory. And when he saw a darkened tent, he said, from here comes defeat. Most of them were asleep. Salahuddin got the message. He delayed his major encounter with the Crusades for another 7 years. The night before the major battle will come to it, it's called Hattin, the same scholar visited him. He took him at night to tour the camp. Most tents were alight. People were reading Quran and making tahajjud. And that scholar was saying, from here comes victory, from here comes victory. And then he said to Salahuddin, now Salahuddin. See how pious they are. See, these people were pious. They fear Allah, but they were good fighters as well. Salahuddin, amongst his other preparations, first, he started manufacturing his own weapons. This is some of the weapons that they used to do. It's catapults here. They used to throw some 50, 60 kilograms of rocks on it. They used to use this kind, they call the thing, the tank at the time, or rammer. They could ram the walls and it protects them from the arrows, from hot water or the oil, etc. This is different, simple things, but he used to make his own. And we'll find out how important that was. Amongst others preparations as well, he had 10,000 hafiz in his army. 10,000 hafiz. A few years ago, the leader of Hamas in Palestine said, Salahuddin liberated Jerusalem with 10,000 hafiz. In our ranks, there are 5,000. We are working on it. Okay, interesting story, yeah? Okay, so now Salahuddin, ready? He's got enough forces, enough equipment, enough resources. He decided to confront the main crusade force head on. The Crusades were aware of that. They were aware that Salahuddin getting more powerful. They couldn't attack him because he was closer to the desert. The Romans before, the Persians, etc., everybody hated the Arabian desert. They knew they could be lost from there. And to attack him, it was a bit risky as well. They could lose. I mean, they should have attacked him from the first day, but they didn't. So what happened that at the time, the Crusades, you remember they had 4 states, didn't they? Where is the Crusade states? Here. They established 4 states when they arrived in the year 1099. One of them, Edessa, that Imaduddin took before he died. You remember? Edessa. That's quarter, or called in Arabic Al-Raha. That was quarter of the area that the Crusades controlled. Not all the colors. This is Antioch, which is Antakya today. And this is Tripoli, and this is called Jerusalem. When they mean by the kingdom of Jerusalem, they mean all of Palestine, quarter of Lebanon, and half of Jordan. That was the most powerful and the most important to them. They came for Jerusalem, but they had to take these places as well. So they kept the coastline to them only. so they can get help from the Christian Europeans at any time. So Salahuddin now he could not go to their castles and fight them, as we said before, because to fight them, they had 4 or 5 major castles and hundreds of little castles all over the coastline. To besiege them, it could take years. And people usually surrender in the castles when they run out of supplies, or you manage to destroy the walls. But if the supplies are coming all the time from the sea, they never run out of supplies. And if to destroy walls takes a long time. This thing. Anyway, we've shown, do you remember last week we had a look at the castles, how difficult it was to destroy. So Salahuddin had to entice them out of the
castles.
He had to. So what he did, he came to an area here, right? This is Tabariya, Tiberias in English, I think called, right? In Palestine now, still there. Okay. There was here a castle that one of the kings, the Crusade king's wife, was staying there. The major kings with the Christian at that time were 3 major ones. One is called Guy. Guy was the king of Jerusalem. The other one called Raymond, the king of Tripoli. The other one was called Reynold. That's Raymond, that is Reynold. Reynold was the king of Karak. Karak is deep in the south of Jordan. Look here. Karak is somewhere here, right? That place here, Karak, the leader of Karak, that was in somewhere here, of the castle, again, on a very high mountain. I showed you last time a picture of it, on a very high hill, not mountain, well fortified. That king, during the fight between Salahuddin and the Crusades, they had an agreement of a ceasefire for 10 years. During that ceasefire, that King Reynold with the L, that King Reynold, what he did, he broke the agreement, the fool. What he did, he sent ships to attack Mecca and Medina and just do sabotage action, come back quickly. But the Ayubis were aware of that. They captured all the ships there and killed everybody on them. Few days after, there was a caravan of Hajjis, people going to Hajj, they have to pass this way. If they're coming from Egypt, if you don't go by sea, you have to come this way to go to Hajj. So you have to pass near Reynold's castle. Or the Muslim coming from Syria or Turkey, they have to come through this. He attacked them, killed many of them, take the rest as slaves, and he told them, where's your Prophet Muhammad? And he swore at him to protect you. When Salahuddin heard about this, he swore by Allah that he will kill that Reynold with his own hands. And he swore again when he heard that Reynold sent the ships to attack Mecca and Medina. So twice he made a pledge in front of everybody, he will kill Reynold with his own hands. Coming back to now, Salahuddin is ready here. Salahuddin gathered very big army. The Crusades realized that he wants to attack now. He's not gathering the army for exercises. They met, the Crusades, the major part of them, power, met at some castles here called Sofria. That's all in French, but Sofria in Arabic. They met here, right? Salahuddin brought his forces and camped here. The kings there, the 3 kings and plus many other barons and little kings here and there, they were discussing whether to go out and fight him in the open or let him come and fight them in their castles. The majority of them say, no, we stay in the castles, it's more secure for us, which is natural conclusion. Salahuddin knew they would not come out from the castles easily. So what he did, he went, before coming here, he went straight to this castle here, where the king, one of the kings, not Raymond of Tripoli, wife was here, and besieged it. So when he moved here, Salahuddin, those there fell for the trap, and they thought he wasn't going for major battle. Why would he attack a small castle for a woman? They thought it weakness. God knows what Allah made them make the wrong decision, and they decided to come out. So they came out from their fortifications. So Salahuddin camped here. They needed water. You cannot fight without water. This is Tibris, or Tabari in Arabic, is the biggest sweet water lake in the world. In this area here called Hattin, and this area called Miskina, there's natural water wells or springs. Salahuddin blocked all those two springs. He arrived there before, and he knew that the Crusades are going to come this way. So what he did, he blocked these here. So the Crusades came this way. Now they wanted water. They found that there is no water here. They have the option either to move to this next water well or spring, or to go straight to the lake. This distance from here and there is 10 miles. From here to there is about 15 miles. It's not too far. So they camped about 15 miles away from the water, or 2 miles away from this spring. Salahuddin was here. He didn't engage them. That's on 3rd of July, 1187. He didn't engage them. What he did, he made his archers, and he had hundreds of them, archers, fire at them when they came nearer this way, as if, get lost, you cannot come this way. You can go only this way. They were very thirsty. They want to water anyway. So they went to the second one, to the second well here. They arrived there in the evening, and they found that was blocked as well. So they spent the night. They spent the night, the Crusades, thinking, how can they get to the water in the morning? They have to walk it all the way, which is not too far. Now they are about 3 miles away. Salahuddin, great leader as he was, I mean, this is one of the major battles in the history of Islam. Salahuddin's army did not sleep at night. All night they were Allahu Akbar, because they know this disturbs the Kafirs a lot. Not only that, he took his army from here, all of them, and surrounded the Crusades. One author said, not even a cat could have escaped. 360 degrees circle around them, right? Over all night, because they wouldn't have gone there if his army was there, would they? They would stay here. There's no water here anyway. So when they woke up in the morning, it was 4th of July, 1183. When they woke up, 87. When they woke up in the morning, just after sunrise, they were thirsty. Not only thirsty, it was very hot. That area could be very hot. It was very hot for a few days before. All the grass were dry. So Salahuddin's men were sending arrows with oil and fire balls around on the Crusaders. Some of them were choking, coughing, thirsty, tired. That is for a couple of hours, and then he attacked them. And they attacked, because it's a matter of them life or death now. They've been besieged. They realized they were besieged, and the formations of right wing, left wing, the heart, the rear, all was useless. They're surrounded from behind, from all sides. So everyone was for himself, and his archers were shooting them, right? Just shooting practice. The night before, 400 loads of arrows arrived at Salahuddin's camp. Told you it was manufacturing his own. And he prepared hundreds, probably thousands of archers. He had 30,000 men. The Crusades were 60,000. He had 30,000 men, but as I said, 7 years of wool preparations. So they were firing at them for a while, and then they stopped, and then they engaged them. But they were demoralized from Allahu Akbar for 24 hours. Thirsty, they haven't had water for 24 hours. They didn't sleep the night before. And Muslims were just killing them. Out of the 60,000, only 200 people managed to escape. This Raymond, the husband of that woman, I don't know how he managed, with 200 men, managed to escape. And the 60,000, 30,000 of them were killed, and 30,000 were captured as slaves. And they were giving them to the soldiers as gifts. One scholar took a crusade as a slave, and he went to town and he exchanged him for a pair of sandals. Somebody said, look, this is worth more than a pair of sandals. It's a lot of money you can get for him. He said, no, just for the record, I want to say that to me is a crusader is only worth a pair of sandals. Right? Some peasant from the local area was walking with 30 prisoners. Right? Anyway, now Salahuddin knows that that's not the aim. The aim is Jerusalem, isn't it? Let's have a look. This is the plain of Hattin. That area is called Hattin, and the battle is called the Battle of Hattin. Right? This is the plain of Hattin. And this is some pictures some crusaders artists drew about how Salahuddin surrounded the crusades at the Battle of Hattin. Right? Now back to Jerusalem. So the war was on 4th of July, 1187. Now he knew he had to go to Jerusalem. The crusaders were so disheartened, defeated badly. Most of them left Jerusalem. The king of God that left it and went to the coast. On the way, Salahuddin captured as many castles and as he could put his hand on, and fortifications, and went to Jerusalem. There were few thousand Roman soldiers, but many Roman, there was a lot of them. And they surrendered in condition that he gave them his security. The Muslim did the same 80 years before. You know, they captured Jerusalem 1099. So, and now the liberation came on 12/10, 1187. So that means Jerusalem was occupied for 88 years. When the Crusades give the pledge that they would not harm the Muslims. When they entered Jerusalem, they killed 70,000 Muslims. They didn't spare a single one. Women, children, anybody. When the Muslims entered there were 18,000 crusaders. Not a single one was killed. Coming back before, we haven't finished the story of Hattin, as there is an important thing. Who got captured in the Hattin? The other two kings that lived there. Raymond ran away. Reynold and Guy. Guy was so frightened. Salahuddin said to him, a king does not kill a king. That I'm king. I'm not killing you. It's like chess. You know, the kings don't kill each other. Checkmate, but they don't kill each other. Anyway, that's the end of the game, but there's no killing there. And he said, what about Reynold? No, he said, come here. He called Reynold. Come here, boy. Will you convert to Islam? He said no. So he killed him by his hand, and he fulfilled his promise. Right? That was the end of. So now back to Jerusalem. Nuruddin, who was so confident that he was going to liberate Jerusalem as well, or the Muslims will do that. 20 years before that, he prepared the pupilate or the member of, now they call it Salahuddin. Actually, it's not Salahuddin, it's Nuruddin. And Salahuddin was so loyal to Nuruddin that when they captured Jerusalem, that was built, by the way, in Aleppo, 300 miles to the north, or 400 miles. So he brought it from there and installed it in Al-Aqsa Mosque. It was made of 3,500 pieces of wood, not a single nail in them, or even glue, only wood that is somehow stuck together by a genius way. This member, the Israelis burnt it in 1969. But then Muslim government met together, etc. They were afraid of Muslims' reaction. They built a very similar one that cost about £2 million at the time. Very similar to the Salahuddin, exactly the same design as it is, right? And so now Salahuddin has got Jerusalem, defeated the Crusades, and the Crusades, of course, the news arrived in Europe. They prepared for a third crusade. Nobody asked about Richard the Lionheart. He wasn't there at that war. So 3 kings now, they came to want to regain Jerusalem from from Europe. One of them is Richard the Lionheart, they call him. One of them Conrad of Germany, and one of them Philip from France. Philip and Conrad came by sea. From Europe, came by sea straight to Palestine, to Syria. Conrad, he said, I will go through by land. That's the German. He came by land. That's southern of Turkey, because they couldn't get the middle of Turkey. Remember, that was controlled by the Turks. The Turks still managed to get hold of his army and killed most of them. He himself was crossing a river, he drowned. So all that army was lost, all of it, 100%, that Conrad. But those 2 arrived there. Who? Philip August, that's his name, of France, and Richard the Lionheart arrived, and they had a fleet, 10,000 men. And Flanders means Flanders and Denmark. That's from North Europe. They came. The only thing they managed to get, those 2 armies plus the existing one, they managed to occupy back Acre from the Muslims. The Muslims now liberated everything almost in the coast except a few cities. But they liberated acres. The Muslims, those managed. Now the people say a lot about the courage of this Richard the Lionheart. He had few confrontation with the Muslim, with Salahuddin. None were conclusive. None. They will fight and losing men both sides, and then they'll stop. And then they met 2, 3 times. The last time they met was very embarrassing for Richard. He realized he's no match to Salahuddin. He just ran away and left his loot and booty behind him. And a few days after, he went back to England. He died soon after that. Philip as well, he realized this is a lost war, and it's not worth it. Then again, he went back there. Few months after, or that's 87, 2 years after, less than 2 years, 27 Salahuddin died. He was only he was born 32, so he was 57 years old when he died. And actually, it was as somebody described, the biggest calamity since the death of the Khulafa al-Rashidin. What he left behind him, 47 pounds. Almost nothing, right? He fought 70 battles in 19 years. On average, 4 battles a year, non-stop fighting. Anyway, he left, I said, 47 pounds. He liberated Jerusalem. The one who liberated Jerusalem first, or conquered Jerusalem during this Umar time, Abu Ubaidah, although Khalid was with him, but Abu Ubaidah Amr ibn al-Jarrah, one of Ashara Mubashara, of the 10. Abu Ubaidah and Salahuddin had few things in common. When Abu Ubaidah died, they found what he left, his inheritance, what he left: a horse, a sword, and a water jug, and prayer mat. That's all what he left behind him, right? Very similar to the Salahuddin's. So the people who liberate Palestine or Jerusalem got to be of this caliber. Those what we have now in the Muslim world, especially in the Arab world, are no good. They can't liberate it because the 47 pounds will not do for them, right? Anyway, so he died. He made the same mistake as everybody else. he had very reliable family members. They never let him down. Instead of choosing the best of them and make him the ruler, he divided his empire into all of these guys. That's the only mistakes that Salahuddin has made. All he had to do, okay, they were all good. They were good, really, I'm telling you. They were not corrupt. They were religious. They were excellent at fighting. They did not fail him in any mission. Probably that's why he was impressed with them. But why you divide this? You made such a big Muslim state, united. You divided into 6, 7 states again. La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. But still, that does not overshadow his great achievement. Because now, from now on, the Crusades will get less and less and less. Actually, the Crusades lasted another 100 years. There means a lot of praise by the way. By the way, Salahuddin won the hearts and souls of the Crusades and the Christian world. No other Muslim ever did that, before or after him. I mean, people were praising him in their books, in their homes in Europe. Till now, people always praise him. You never see the Christians praising a man like him, because he saved so many of their lives, really. He didn't kill the prisoners, right? Right, but I mean, it's not only war as well. He was good at the social services he did to the people, just like Umar radiallahu anhu, helping the poor. He had many institutions there, the education. He had many places where homeless people could go. So he was a great administrator, really. Honestly, just very, very similar to Umar. Nuruddin was like that as well. Now, after he died, quickly, shall we go through quickly the rest of the Crusades, or you had enough of me today?
Please, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, quickly. The Fourth Crusade, the Christians were so angry that they lost Jerusalem again. 10 years after, 15 years after, they came, big army there, tens of thousands. They came by land. They arrived at Constantinople, Istanbul today, and they liked it. So they sacked it. That's what they did. And they never left. And they're still there. They never moved an inch towards Palestine. That was the Fourth Crusade. They thought that was better than Jerusalem, so they stayed there. Right, that's the Fourth Crusade. The Fifth Crusade, what they did, they said, right, the best way to attack Palestine is to go to Egypt. So they went to Egypt and they were beaten badly by Salahuddin's nephews or sons, right? And that was failure as well, the Fifth Crusade. The Sixth Crusade, yes, the Sixth Crusade has some success. The Sixth Crusade, unfortunately, it was one of Salahuddin's nephews or cousins. One of them, he made agreement with because he had fight with his cousins, with a man called Frederick II of Sicily. He made agreement, you come over, I'll give you control over Jerusalem if you help me, unfortunately. But it wasn't full control. It was dual control. It was free for everybody to go there, but then he died soon. Then another one of Salahuddin's sons, or grandsons, before we could talk about this, let's finish about this thing. One of Salahuddin's, no, let's go back to this one here, because I want to talk about this. So he came and liberated Jerusalem for the last time, a few years after, and they never came back to it, right? One of the Crusades as well, we said the sixth, the Seventh Crusade is Louis VII, the ninth, Louis IX. Remember, one of the Crusades we had Louis VII. That's in the fourth and the third Crusades. Louis VII, the ninth, he came and again to Egypt, right? To Egypt, and again, I don't know why they believe now to conquer Palestine, you got to sort out Egypt, and that's what Salahuddin noticed, and Nuruddin before. That's how important it was. You see, the importance of Egypt is from Egypt to Palestine, by road, it's a month trip. By sea, it's a 2 days trip. You understand? That's very close to Palestine, as well as being far. But if you got a good fleet, from Alexandria to Gaza, that's only 2 days by ship, even at that time, right? So this man came he thought now the Ayubis are very weak, etc. But he was captured himself, and he had to pay some 800,000 peasants pound or something for his ransom, right? And then he came again. Now this time he said, okay, let's go a bit further. This Louis VIII, he still insisted, although he promised never to attack the Muslims. So what he did, he went and attacked Tunisia. Well, somebody shot him with an arrow and he died there. That was the end of the Crusades. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم.